On Friday, June 28th, a computer scientist and legal scholar Craig Wright appeared in court after being charged with contempt. Wright had several emotional outbursts, at one point denouncing the technology he claims to have created, Bitcoin, and at another, throwing a piece of evidence to the ground. CoinDesk traveled down to West Palm Beach on August 5th with their cameras to witness the turn of events at Wright's second trial date. The day's events were more than just spectacle for the members of the press and public that sat in. Some came to show support for the maligned Wright.
This is truly a historical moment. I think Bitcoin and the entire concept behind it and blockchain is a revolutionary moment in human history. And I've done pretty exhaustive research, and I fully support the idea that Craig is Satoshi, or at least one of the original people that were Satoshi. I mean, I love the fight out there. Like, people hate on Craig, and he's brilliant. He has somewhere like, I've read conflicting reports, 800 to 1,200 patents pending in blockchain and Bitcoin. Nobody has been more prolific than him, and nobody has the background to be him more than him.
Others to cast shade on his claims.
I have my mind set on this topic. I still wanted to hear what both parties have to say, and it was actually pretty entertaining and educational as well.
What do you think was the most surprising part about the testimony today?
Everyone was expecting Craig Wright to show up. Me and the communities that I consider to be a part of, we don't really care. We kind of know that Craig Wright is a fraud, and we kind of don't care what the court is going to say. We have our minds set, we have our opinions set, and we don't mind any outcome. Like, we know the truth.
Most, however, agreed. The trial represents a historic moment.
I'm interested in this case because it involves a couple of different things. Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, and the fact that it is a legal matter that's being litigated.
Well, obviously I'm here for the case. It's super interesting. You know, potential to be a life-changing event for a lot of people. This case will be heard and be brought up for generations of crypto cases. This case sets that foundation of digital rights, of who owns what when someone passes and all this stuff.
Wright's defense deposed Stephen Shatters, Chief Technology Officer of nChain, to lay groundwork why the self-declared inventor of Bitcoin, Wright, has been unable to provide complete information regarding his earliest acquired Bitcoin. Shatters testified that beginning sometime in June, he began work on extracting possible holdings. Using 6 criteria, he winnowed down potential addresses to around 27,000 on Wright's behalf. Despite the rigid criteria, Shatters also testified his algorithm contained a quirk that may have included addresses that do not belong to Wright. He allegedly made this discovery in the days leading up to the hearing. The prosecution probed Shatters regarding his travel expenses to and from the June 28th hearing at which Wright testified, seemingly to indicate Shatters may have been paid for his efforts. The prosecution called Matthew J. Edman, director at Berkeley Research Group, as an expert witness in metadata and cryptography. According to his testimony, a number of emails and bit messages purportedly sent between Dave Kleiman and Wright show evidence of tampering. Edman frequently spoke of circumstantial evidence that suggests Wright manipulated documents to weave a narrative around the establishment and chain of custody of the Tulip Trust.
Well, I think it's just a small piece of maybe the overall case. Obviously, there are many components, and it appears to me that they're trying to prove that the defendant has entered in some misleading documents. I enjoyed the expert witness's testimony. However, I think that there are exceptions. I believe the defendant's attorneys pointed out about the authenticity or the reliability of the metadata, and that, you know, it doesn't necessarily point out that the defendant has actually altered the documents intentionally. They could have been done at another time, or maybe there are other explanations. I think it's important to maybe point out that the defendant somehow is acting in a sense misleading, perhaps the court or even the plaintiff, and but I don't necessarily think that was achieved today.
I mean, I think we all agree that yes, this metadata has been altered, but at the same time, okay, it's been altered, but we will never be able to wire up the digital identity with the physical identity. So he can just keep going with like, hey, it wasn't me. That's it. Like in a song, you know, it wasn't me.
You know, this case plays up to the fact that he needs to be Satoshi, right? So either way, it's a win-win for him. If he loses the case, it's a win. You know, and obviously if he wins the case, it's a win. So I think the only negative impact that could happen is if he, you know, falls in contempt, and that's would be simply because of not producing the evidence that the judge wanted, right? So I don't think there's any negative impact that's going to come out of this case per se that's going to affect the price of BSV, or for that matter, the price of BTC. I don't think this case is what's going to set a precedent.
They'll be back on August 28th, where a decision may be made regarding possible sanctions for Craig Wright's failure to disclose his Bitcoin holdings. For now, I'm Daniel Kuhn for CoinDesk. Any closing thoughts?
No. Buy Bitcoin.